Connor, Mr. Zlotnick?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm suspicious that Mr. Zlotnick has arisen because you said that Melinda Terry was catching up with him in the number of appearances before us.
He heard the challenge.
I heard that, and I rushed down here.
That's right.
To make sure. And as I've said in the past, it's not just quantity, but there's, how many times you're here versus how long you speak. And Melinda's got a lot for me to catch up to, I think, on that. So.
To the point.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to extend my welcome to Supervisor Rustaller. Good to see you, Supervisor. Just very quickly, I share in Val's comments and concur with those, and just want to add a few things from the San Luis Delta Mendota Water Authority, who I represent. Kudos to Peter and your science program staff. They've done a very good job, a good effort on this plan. There have been improvements from draft to draft, and we expect there'll continue to be refinements and improvements for the program. It's not perfect, as you heard Val say, but it is a living document, and we appreciate the receptiveness to constructive engagement, which I was part of that 25 that had that meeting, and we certainly don't see why that won't continue, and we look forward to that. We do think that the plan seeks to address problems pretty directly and has basically covered the arena well. We do believe there's one area where while it's strong on process and the various groups, and there's one area of discussion that we'd like to see a little bit more robust representation of, and it gets to the issue that I think Dr. Loma talked to and you've talked about many times, which is the often disputes and frustrations dealing with over the issue of what questions are actually being asked for the scientists to investigate and why. And the omission of some that we think may be central to the grand challenges, as Peter describes them, that over the years have just been sort of pushed to the side because they didn't meet certain perspectives or sort of long-standing studies or whatever. So we think that's an area that could be more robust in sort of trying to figure out how to get to those. We think striking the right balance between the so-called outside experts and their role and doing the hard work of engaging locals and trying to resolve their conflicts through, I think, Peter, you described it as a credible, legitimate, and relevant process, is important because while outsiders can certainly provide another set of eyes, so to speak, if they're blind to many of the realities on the ground and in the water, then it can be counterproductive. So we need to be sure how that gets dealt with. Val mentioned the water management framework terminology. We had a good discussion about that, and we think that the plan and the intent is pretty good. We just need to come up with some different terms because of how it gets interpreted in our community. It's a very broad term, and that wasn't seemingly the intent. And so we're happy to be working with you on trying to figure out some other options for that. We totally agree that let's get on with it. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, so to speak. By the council, I believe your motion says accepting the document. It doesn't say adopting it. I think it says accept it is an important distinction. We presume that it will be, as I said, a living document. I was a little concerned on the chart that you had, Peter. It said it's a Delta Science Plan updated 2015, I think it said. And our view is this is going to be updated from now, just sort of going forward. So you might want to consider, I think the quarterly check-ins are good and reporting, but I don't think you're going to stop talking to people about this, and I think there will be sort of activity. The action agenda itself needs to be somewhat nimble once it gets established, because who knows what's going to happen next month where all of a sudden there's some big issue that is out there that wasn't on the agenda. So I think that should be reflected in the plan as well. And so one suggestion, the potential maker of the motion is not in the room, but your current motion, I believe, says that you are providing Peter with the discretion and flexibility to make minor conforming changes. And I would suggest the council not limit him to minor conforming changes and just say you have the discretion to continue developing the plan, coming back regularly. Because we just don't want that language to be interpreted as some sort of constraint on actual substantive changes.
Mr. Zlotnick, I was with you right up until this last point. because it says, the staff motion says, authorize the lead scientist and the Delta Science Program staff to use its discretion in making minor conforming changes for purpose of clarity and harmonization.
Right.
And you want to delete that?
No, I don't think that necessarily covers substantive changes.
So you want them to have authority to make policy changes and minor conforming
Well,
changes?
I wouldn't necessarily call it policy changes, but substantive changes to the plan that they think make it better. And they, report back to you. That's all. It's not worth getting into.
Okay. Probably not. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Lotnick. All right, any other? Okay.